Hey everybody, I'm sitting on the floor in my piano room, thinking about breathing and thinking about teaching breathing to singers, particularly young singers, and also thinking about how breathing is something that singers work on for their whole lives and keep improving on for their whole lives. And I love that. I love that challenge. I love that something that I was working on when I was 15 years old is something that I'm working on when I'm 37 years old, and is something that I'll work on when I'm 67 years old if I'm still thinking about singing and singing then. I hope I am. So let's start with inhalation. Oh wait, before I say that though, before we start down this path, I want to say that we've been breathing our whole lives. So let's try not to overcomplicate this, even though it can get really complicating. We can make it as complicated as we want to. And I find that in my own learning, I take what I can, I absorb what I can in that moment, even if there's extra information I can't absorb. And then eventually, as I learn and learn and learn and learn, I'm able to absorb more and more and more and more. So if I get too detailed about something, just take what's useful right now. That's all. We're just all on a mission to grow it a little bit or a lot bit in whatever way we can today. So in inhalation, the air goes into your body through your nose or your mouth or both, called a double-pronged inhalation. I really like to breathe through my nose. I'll talk about that some other time probably. It's called a filtered breath. We call it a filtered breath, and there's a lot of advantages to it. Oh, smell the cinnamon rolls. But in inhalation, the air goes in through our nose or mouth, down through our trachea and into our lungs, right? So our lungs, if you think about where the trachea meets your lungs, it's about where your armpit level is on most humans. I mean, of course, we're all different, right? So it's not exactly the same for every person. So if you think about the air coming from here to here and then going into your lungs from here, it makes no sense when we as singers go and raise our shoulders, right? Because this is where the air is coming into your lungs. Okay. So now, what is helping your lungs expand to get the best breath that you can? And you can overbreathe too. So don't think that more is always better. But if you find your ribs, and I like to walk my hands up my ribs and find where they come together. It's about right here for me. That is approximately where your diaphragm meets your lungs. So your diaphragm, let's talk about the diaphragm muscle, because I am on a personal mission to eradicate all false information about the diaphragm muscle in singing, because there's so much of it. The biggest one that I run into in my own teaching is that students think it is what is making their staccato. That's what's like squeezing their air out to make a staccato. And that's not true. The diaphragm muscle has to relax for you to let air go out. The diaphragm is a primary muscle in inhalation, meaning when you breathe in, what the diaphragm does is it's a dome-shaped muscle. It sits right where we just talked about, the bottom of your lungs. And when you breathe in, your diaphragm muscle pulls down, all right? And it doubles the size of your lungs. Awesome. Like, we definitely want that, right? We want to double the size of our lungs. And because a muscle can only move in one direction, it moves down. It is not the muscle that then forces the air out of the body. The diaphragm is an unmatched muscle, one of the unmatched muscles of the body, which means that most muscle groups have a pairing. For instance, like in my arm, I use one set of muscles, I think my triceps, to pull down, and then another set of muscle, my bicep, to pull back up. Right? See how those are a matched pair of muscles? The diaphragm is unmatched, so it only pulls down and can double the size of the lungs. So when we're thinking about inhalation, sometimes I like to take my hand and put it right here and use that as a guide to just sort of visually mimic what my diaphragm is doing. So I'm going to inhale through my nose, and then I feel that go out. Now, as I'm inhaling, of course, if you can see, this is going to expand out, down, because the air is coming in to my body, yeah? Now let me talk about something else that's a misconception in breathing for singing. I've had some singers that thought they had to push out their stomach to breathe correctly. No, 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 no. Now your stomach may go out when you breathe in, but why? It's a cause and effect relationship. It's because your lungs are getting so full of air, okay? So remember, in breathing for singing, it's because your lungs are filling up. The lungs are really incredible because they're an elastic material and so tissue, so you can make that more elastic your whole life. Like I said at the beginning, I love that you can improve this all the time. A lot of singers, especially advanced singers, will talk about breathing into their backs, breathing into the side. I just did a little video using the Acapella app showing my own breathing from the front, the side, and the back. So you can check that out if you're interested. I'll try to link it in this video. All right, so that's some basics about inhalation. What about exhalation? Well, we know that the diaphragm is the primary muscle of inhalation. So what's the primary muscle of exhalation? There are a couple. Your abs help to squeeze the air out of your lungs, and also your intercostal muscles. Those are, those are the muscles on your ribs. And if you want to get really specific about it, there's internal intercostal muscles and external intercostal muscles, and they aid in different ways in the breathing process. But to not get overly technical about it, just say some rib muscles are helping you push that air out. So let's try a couple together. We're going to monitor on our ribs, just putting a hand on our ribs. And then you can put your other hand, here if you want, or on the other side. I'm holding my camera, so I can't do that. But as you breathe in, you're going to remember in through the nose, it comes here, the diaphragm pulls down. Yeah. So you're going to feel this expansion down here. Ready? In. Out. In. Out. Now, when I'm doing that, am I thinking, oh, now my diaphragm's pulling down, and oh, now my external intercostal muscles are pushing the air out? No, I'm not thinking about all that as I'm doing it, but I know that it's happening, and having a correct body map of what's happening is, I think, very important, because over time it helps you to go deeper into your understanding and to make sure that, you're not doing things like breathing with your shoulders or pushing out your stomach when you breathe in because you think that's what a good breath is. I have one exercise that I've been using a lot in my studio this year for a warm-up breathing exercise that I'll try to do right now. I don't know if the camera angle will be worth it or not, but we'll try. And I find this to be really useful, so I'm going to put that there. And then let's see. Okay. So, try to get far enough away. I'm going to roll down over 8 counts, starting from the center where my head meets my spine. All right, so we're going to roll down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now I shake out my head and my shoulders, my neck, because I'm trying not to hold any tension there. All right, I'm just like a rag doll. If somebody came up and went, my head would just hang and swing because I'm not holding any tension there. So now I'm gonna bend my knees. You don't have to if you're super flexible, but I like to feel this part of my body, my torso, on my legs. All right, I'm gonna stay like a rag doll, and I'm gonna breathe in for 3 and out for 3. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. Roll up. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Last thing to roll up is our head. 1. So if you try that exercise, when I'm breathing and I'm constricted, you know, like this, I can really feel the breath around here, 360 degrees around my lungs. So, yeah. And I bet you'll be able to feel that too. So I hope that this was helpful to you, because that's my main goal. And happy breathing.